Today we're talking about video transmission systems, specifically from a company called Hollyland. Hollyland has a ton of different systems for video transmission, but today we're going to be comparing their most popular models such as the Mars 300 Pro, 400S Pro, and the new Cosmo C1. All of these units are very unique, but they also share some similarities. First things first, the price. This is the most important part when it comes down to budgeting for your projects. Starting with the Mars 300 Pro, the price is $469. The 400S Pro is $649, and the Cosmo C1 is $899. Now the price increase between the Mars 300 Pro and the Cosmo C1 is really distinguishable when it comes down to the actual features. For example, the range on the Mars 300 Pro is set to 300 feet. Now this 300 feet is unobstructed and within visual line of sight. So if you're a filmmaker, DP, or AC for that matter, and you just need 300 feet, the Mars 300 Pro is perfect for you. They also have an enhanced version of this unit with antennas that stick out, which will give you slightly better stability and even a little bit better when it comes down to range. Now, I've tested the Mars 300 Pro between walls in a 4-story townhouse, and I'll tell you right now that it works flawlessly. Even the lag is pretty good too. That's another huge difference between all of these systems, is that the lag is different, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. I also want you to make sure that you watch my review videos of each of these transmission systems, because I do test out the lag on each of them and I show you some of their best features. This video is meant to just give you an overall rundown of what each of these systems offers. So the Mars 300 Pro also has app compatibility functions, so you can actually view live feed coming from your camera within the HollyView app. Now, the Mars 300 Pro, if you notice, this system does not have SDI. So if you're using a cinema grade camera, it will most likely not work with the system unless you use a converter to HDMI. This also has an HDMI loop out, which is very useful, especially if you want to continue using a monitor on your camera. So again, Mars 300 Pro, definitely more meant for the prosumer that needs just HDMI and not SDI. And that's where the Mars 400S Pro comes in, because we have both options available to us, such as HDMI and SDI, along with 100 more feet of range. On top of that, with my testing, I was able to get more stable images from the Mars 400S Pro simply because of its design and that it has the ability to reach 100 more feet. None of these systems perform badly within walls, especially the cheaper Mars 300 Pro. These systems all perform very well and they're spec'd very accurately. So very similar to the Mars 300 Pro on the 400S Pro, we get that app compatibility function, allowing us to view live feed and to actually save live feed directly to your mobile device. And that's a very powerful and useful feature, especially if you want to save some sort of down-res version of the shots that you're shooting. So that's a very powerful tool. When it comes down to build quality, comparing the 400S Pro and the 300 Pro, they're made out of very similar material. I do feel like the 400S Pro is slightly more sturdy, but they're both made out of metal, and the 300 Pro is actually significantly lighter in my hands, especially without the battery attached. So if weight is a big issue for you, then the 300 Pro is definitely something to look at. Both of these units have a built-in LCD display. On the 400S Pro, we have a much better display. It's larger and it tells you exactly what you need to see. Just like on the 300 Pro, we also have an LCD display, much smaller, tells you exactly what you need to see, but it's on the side of the unit, so it makes it more stealthy. And I do like the fact that the standard of the Mars 300 Pro doesn't have any extruding antennas, so it doesn't make it so distracting, especially when you're working on live events like weddings. You don't want to be too distracting with your equipment when you're there. Now let's quickly talk about the aesthetics. I love the aesthetics of the 400S Pro more than I do the 300 Pro, simply because it looks like a superpower, like something that came out of Iron Man. But that's just me. If you don't really care about aesthetics, obviously that doesn't really matter. But again, don't forget that the 300 Pro is more stealthy because you can't really tell what it is. I just like the design changes in the 400S Pro, and I like just how it looks and it feels. But again, Neither of these systems feel cheap. Now let's move on to the big boy, the Cosmo C1. This is a system entirely in its own universe. No pun intended, right? Mars, Cosmo. You guys get that reference, right? But anyway, if you take a look at the Cosmo C1, you'll notice that it is significantly larger than both the 300 Pro and the 400S Pro, but that's because we have a completely different processor inside, decreasing lag time significantly, and it gives us much longer range of up to 1,000 feet. That's right, over double what the 400S Pro gives us and over triple what the Mars 300 Pro gives us. So if you want something that has minimal lag time and something that does 1,000 feet of range, this is the unit for you. However, on top of that, this can also be used as a wireless capture card. And I've demoed this in a previous YouTube video. So if you want to learn how to use the Cosmo C1 as a live streaming capture card tool, definitely check out that video. It's going to give you more insight on some of the other features that this unit provides us. I do also want to add that all of these units use the same exact power source. They can all be powered via USB-C, NPF style Sony batteries, or their included adapters. They last about a similar amount of time when it comes down to battery life, but I do think that the Cosmo C1 has slightly less battery life when comparing it to the previous two models, the 300 Pro and the 400S Pro. And lastly, on the Cosmo C1, image stability is a real key factor, and I had 0 dropouts on the Cosmo C1. Now, dropouts are very minimal on these two systems right here too, but they have happened occasionally. On the Cosmo C1, you will not have random dropouts. It will automatically be switching between different channels in order to get you the clearest images possible. So if that's something that you're worried about and you need stability, the Cosmo C1 is perfect for you. And by the way, the Cosmo C1 is your best friend when it comes down to projecting live feed. So if you're shooting a sports event and you want your live feed to be broadcasted live, then the Cosmo C1 I think is the only and the best option for you when comparing it to the 300 Pro and the 400S Pro. So hopefully this video has given you a breakdown of what these units have to offer. They're all very powerful tools, but they carry different features and are spec'd completely differently. And check out the links down below in the description box if you want to learn more about these units, and I'll also show you where you can buy them if you are interested. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Peace.